we integrated with BorderConnect. It basically allows for cross-border transit into Canada and into the U.S. from Canada. So it is just for Canada and the U.S., which is a limit just on the actual individual governments. So it doesn't allow for any transit into Mexico. But it allows for eManifests declarations to be submitted electronically. So what is that? It is basically just the required paperwork and the required information that needs to be sent from the asset-based provider to customs, either Canadian or the U.S. customs, that need to match the customs broker's information that they're declaring for that individual load. The government only requires this type of document to be filed by the asset-based carrier, so the fleet carriers, or the customs broker. And then there's some other like small companies that can do it, which is like bonded warehouse providers and a couple other ones, but it's not going to be done or used by brokerage. So we have 2 fleet customers that are heavy cross-border. One's actually based in Canada, and we have a fair amount of customers that are in Canada. So in order to really supply or meet their needs, we needed this integration. So the workaround really would have been them having to leave the TMS and log into BorderConnect's UI, which would have worked, but our whole business model is obviously to keep users in the TMS and get all of the information in one location so that they don't have to have multiple browsers up and checking multiple screens, which can kind of cause, misses or errors, or just it's not as seamless. One of the projects that I've worked on for quite a while, because it was very, very involved, just because you are dealing with the Canadian and the U.S. government. So there was a lot of regulation that needed to go into this. So talked a lot with our BorderConnect partner and made sure that we were building it correctly, and if there was any kind of gotchas or areas to avoid, made sure we made it as seamless and easy for users so they're not falling into those problems, because a mistake when you're filing an eManifest will usually result in a fine. So we put in some safeguards into the TMS, such as arrival time. We put in validation so that you can't submit something past 30 minutes, which is basically a requirement by the government. So things like that was very, very helpful to work with a partner who's an expert in the field. And then we also met very regularly with our customers that requested it. They're the project matter experts. They use the integration in their legacy system, and they do this every day. So we definitely met with them and asked, how does this workflow work? Where are you getting this specific field? Is this something that you input once and forget it, or is it something that you guys need to be able to update on an individual load basis? So just making sure that we had those discussions so we could understand what the end user's workflow was, so that when they're actually building the manifest, it's seamless and they have all the information right where they need it. It's really important to get all of the information correct, because there's so much information that the government wants, and it's down to the truck level, to the trailer level, to the load level. And we're sending date of birth information, we're sending travel credentials, so it's like licenses, passports. And so having all that information within the TMS, and specifically Salesforce, is super helpful, because we have the infrastructure and the data model to support it. So when you're onboarding your carrier, you're gonna upload your fast card information, you're gonna upload that passport, and once it's in the TMS and it's up to date, when you're submitting the eManifest, we're pulling that information automatically and providing it via the API request, instead of having to have a user scan the passport or pull it from their desktop and then submit it into BorderConnect's UI. If the information is in the TMS, we're grabbing that and providing it to BorderConnect into the customs agencies. So instead of having to do a lot of double work and again causing some errors or some mistakes, as long as the system's set up correctly, we're gonna pull in all that information, and it's gonna reduce the amount of double work. And then again, just avoiding as much fines as we can, because no one wants to pay the government more money. One of the benefits of having Salesforce and being built on the Salesforce platform is the security. So I would say it is secure. Salesforce invests a lot of money to make sure that it is. And I think a lot of the legacy providers of TMSs aren't going to have that same level of investment in security just because they can't invest as much as Salesforce can. And because it is a CRM, Salesforce is very, very specific about like what's encrypted data, how you can connect within the app. And then we have a thing called like the secret tokens, which is set within the Salesforce TMS. And if someone tries to connect to the API integration using a token that's not the correct one, that information won't be either sent or received to your individual Salesforce org. So you're not sending the information for your driver's passport thinking that it's BorderConnect connected. It has to have that exact token. And we'll also log like those errors if they come in. I think the other benefit of obviously having Salesforce is you can control exactly what you want to actually live within the TMS and who can see that. So travel credentials is an example. So that's where we have the passports and the fast card information. You can lock down that object so that only specific admin users or managers can actually see that data. So that is not something that you're going to have to worry about, just anyone being able to see and write down or make copies of. So yeah, I think it gives you a lot of flexibility to make the best decision for your own organization on how you want to secure that information once it's actually in the TMS. And then once it's in the TMS, we're really leveraging Salesforce's heavy investment in security to make sure that that data is safe. There's a lot of different like contingencies. So if it's like a PAP shipment or if it's an inbound shipment, then these 10 different things are required. And so instead of like making the end user know that, we tried to make it super intuitive in the system. So when you select certain fields, it will actually render so that you know what's required. Air handling was another big thing. So we have like a validate functionality in the system. So you can validate it with BorderConnect. They'll run it through and make sure you have all the information that you need in order to submit it. And then if you don't, they'll respond with any information that needs to be addressed. And we'll show that in the UI, and it's red and bold, so you guys know exactly what needs to be addressed. And then you can resubmit it and validate it until it's actually been approved by BorderConnect. And then you can submit it to the border so that the border is just getting the final like clean version. So those were a lot of things that we just kind of had to like work through and understand like for an end user, like what do they actually need to see, what's important information. And because BorderConnect does service like those inbound warehouses, there's certain like work streams that are in the API that don't actually apply to our end customers. And so kind of weeding through some of those things to just make sure that we're only showing what you guys actually need to use versus like overloading you with kind of useless information.